A real dad is a blend of a man who's aware of his weaknesses, but is also willing to put in the work to work on those specific items. Now, the DNA of a real dad is comprised of 5 things: presence, patience, strength, leadership, and legacy. If men aren't willing to put in the work on the specific items that need improvement, I fear they're never going to reach their true potential as a real dad. I'm Andrew Russell, founder of DadderUp, and I'm on a mission to promote and celebrate what it means to be a dad. So I recently got called out by my oldest daughter for basically not showing up as a real dad and doing a horrible job in certain things. And I realized that although I thought I was doing a great job, there were certain weaknesses that I had to improve upon. So she called out my use of technology, said, "Hey, Dad, you're on your phone so much. You're basically telling me and my sister that we're not worthy of your time and we're just not that important." So although that broke me at the moment, I realized that I wasn't showing up with the best version of myself as what I would call a real dad. So there were 4 specific things that I realized comprise becoming a real dad that no one's talking about. Now, the first brutal truth on what it takes to be a real dad is honesty. Now, I know it's a bad analogy. You say like AA, the first step is admitting that there's a problem. And it's just like with anything, is the first step will always be, is there something that you should improve upon? The 5 specific pillars of being a great dad. Presence. Are you there physically, but that you're not really there mentally or emotionally? Like I was struggling with that. Patience. Do you have tough days? Do you just have a short fuse with your kids? Are you not showing up as best version of your dad or a real dad with the patience that they deserve? Strength, your health, your vitality. Are you in the best physical, peak performance, you call it, with your kids? Are you able to show up and do the things with them? Or is right or wrong different, your strength getting in the way? Leadership, are you leading by example? Are you doing things that you want them to replicate? And of course, legacy. Are you doing a great job instilling your morals, your values, things that you cherish to your kids so it can continue on through the generations? So for myself, I had to be honest with myself. I had to work on presence and I had to work on strength. Now I was doing a great job on leadership. I was doing what I would call a good job on legacy, morals and values. I was definitely doing a good job with patience. For some reason, I have tons of patience with kids. Adults, not so much. Kids, for sure. Now presence, after I was called out by my kids, specifically my oldest daughter, I had to work on my technology and my use of my smartphone and putting it away and just being more attentively present versus just there physically. So that's something that I had to work on. And of course, strength. There's so many parents that are like, I'm going to live my life for my kids. Living your life for your kids is actually the wrong way to live your life. You have to first live your life for yourself, because if you're, your body, your temple, if you're not in the best shape, mental space, emotional, physical, you're not going to be the best version of yourself for your kids. So that's something that I struggle with. I was like, I have 2 daughters. I'm going to be the best girl dad in the world, and I'm going to live my life for them. But what I did was I kind of put my health, my vitality, my strength on the side. And then what happens as you get older, your metabolism is not the same as it was in your 20s. A couple glasses of wine, maybe some Uber Eats, maybe a little Chick-fil-A. Nothing wrong with Chick-fil-A. You do that over the months, over a year, you gain some weight. You gain weight, you aren't as active. You put yourself in a position where, number one, your physical, your vitality is not where it should be. And number 2, it could be a health issue, downstream anyway, right? It's not good for yourself, for your health. And also your kids deserve a better version of yourself as you're doing the thing with them, right? What's the thing? Playing soccer, going to the events, waking up early and leading by example. A lot of that does rely on strength. So that was something that I had to work on. And it took time. It wasn't something that I can instantly correct. But I was honest with myself. It's hard to look in the mirror and be honest and be like, hey, Mr. Russell, the product that I see in this mirror is not really the best version of yourself, because it's removing ego, it's humbling down and realizing that you're not perfect, right? So of the 5, I personally had to work on presence and on strength, but I find that just the brutal honesty, that's the first step. If you're not honest with yourself on what needs improvement, you're never going to make any improvements. Now, the second component is probably the biggest misconception about fatherhood, that fathers are only required to be providers, and that's it. Now, of course, it just reminds me of Robin Williams in Good Will Hunting when he said, talked about his wife who had passed away, but he kind of learned about the little things, right? All the little peccadillos of the wife and how he fell in love with her. Now, I realized, even for myself and where I struggled, at least initially, I thought the same thing. My job is to go out, make the biscuits, provide for the house, provide safety and security, but more so financially provide for the house, and that was my sole purpose. But what I realized was, similar to Robin Williams and the point that he made about his wife, is that all the little things, right, the little peccadillos for my kids, the little special moments, all that quality time stuff, I was missing out on that, but that was really the good stuff. So we as dads, the contrarian thinking piece is that we're not just the financial providers, which is very accurate. It is way beyond the financial side of what our responsibilities are. It's emotional. It's being there physically, but also being attentive. It's, doing the quality time items with the kids. It's having patience, right? So we've already talked about the present side, but it's offering legacy and showing them all the morals and values that you want to continue. Now, a lot of times this has been contemporarily the mom's job or thought of as the mom's role, but it's actually 100% not. It is actually the dad's role. It's just as important that the dad. Financial is one thing, right? And many times households right now, just with the cost of living, are both parents are actually working. But it's the dad's fiduciary responsibility to kind of flip that narrative on its head and realize that there's more to being a great dad, or what I would call a real dad, than just providing for the house financially. There's multiple pillars, and if you just focus on financial, you're really dropping the ball. Now, the third item is a common misconception that dads should just defer to the mom, right? So what makes a real dad? Just someone that leans on mom. Mom will take care of, all the hard stuff. Now, this is completely wrong. So it's mom, dad, right? So your parents. Parents are on a mutual, even playing field. As an example, where is it written? In what law or rule is it that moms have to do girls' hair? Or when kids need to be consoled, that mom is the one that has to console them. It's written nowhere. I can tell you that specifically. So it's a huge misconception, and it's just, you see it in movies, it's kind of talked through in society. It's just something that just has become very habitual. But without a doubt, this is inaccurate. Dads have to realize that what makes a real dad is someone that shows up equal to the mom, because guess what? You're both parents, right? So dads can do girls' hair. I mean, I can say specifically for myself, I struggled, and I kind of leaned on their mom for multiple years, but then I realized, what am I doing? Sure, I got some big mittens. I'm a big bro, and it's kind of awkward doing little girls' hair, but I kind of leaned into it, gave it my best shot, and it made my relationship with my kids become closer, because maybe the first, second, third time it was horrible, and it took me 30 minutes to do something that probably took, typical people 30 seconds. But it's just one of those things that it was never written, or it was never made law that their mom was supposed to be the one to do this. It was something that I really enjoyed. Or consoling, right? Consoling is typically looked at in society as, oh, mom will console the kids. But I really like to step up and be there for my kids in moments of tantrums or, sickness or whatever it is, because it's in those moments where you really step up as a parent, you show your true colors as a true dad, and you build a relationship with your kids. Now, the fourth way to be a real dad, which is very difficult and a lot of dads struggle with, a lot of parents struggle with, is leading by example. Now, unfortunately, we live in a society where there's either you have to be a parent to your kids, or you have to be their friend. And many times people are leaning to being their friend. A lot of divorce or split households, you want to have the kid really like you and like going to hang out with you. So you kind of more so befriend them versus be their parent, and more authoritarian, where at times kid might not appreciate it. If you're the friend, of course they're going to appreciate it more. You see a lot of influencers out there that are more friends with their kids than leading by example. So this is something that is definitely difficult and many parents struggle with. As an example, in our household, it's super simple to, throw on the music, do the karaoke, do the TikTok dances, throw on the YouTube shorts, because my kids specifically, they love that stuff. But I've realized that I'm not really leading by example. There's a lot of stuff in the YouTube shorts, right? There's a lot of stuff in TikTok that for 9 and 7-year-old girls isn't really appropriate. Is it illegal to have them watch it? No. Is it a gray area? Sure. But I've made the collective decision for me to be a real dad that I want to invest in doing the right things with them, which I would say is leading by example with the right shows, with the right music, with the right dress. It's very difficult, especially in the society when, instant gratification exists on social media, and there's a lot of, images and portrayals of, especially as a girl dad, what a woman should look like, or even as a guy, what a guy should aspire to. We don't have to get into the toxic masculinity stuff, but regardless, it's definitely a real dad's job to lead by example. But first, you have to be very introspective. What do you think you should be showing your kids when you lead by example? Should you be doing a better job? Like for myself, I'm not exactly the best putting the laundry in the hamper. For whatever reason, I think my brain dies when it's time to, put laundry in the hamper. But of course, I realize my kids aren't doing that. How could you get upset at your kids for not doing things that you're not doing as their quote unquote proverbial leader, right? Putting the dishes away, all the little things. So I realized, number one, the importance of leading by example. And number two, these are things that I had to work on, because monkey see, monkey do. If you don't do it, how do you expect your kids to do it? And is it even fair to ask them to? All right, so we just spoke about 4 specific items that make up being a real dad. But make sure, guys, you go in the description, click the link, take the Flex 5 assessment. It's the disc for dads. It's going to show you the 5 pillars of being a real dad: presence, patience, strength, leadership, and legacy. What are the things you're doing great at? What are the things that are we consider your weaknesses, and then you'll get your free workbook on how to improve those. So make sure, guys, before you sign off this video, make sure you go in the description, click the link, and take the assessment. We've seen dads improve on the areas that they're struggling with in as little as 30 days. So one of the huge myths, I mean, we've talked about some of the strategies on how to be a real dad. One of the huge misconceptions in society is that dads are not supposed to be emotional, right? We're supposed to just man up, figure it out, and we can't be emotional. All right, so our next video, we're going to talk about the emotional side of being a dad. Because remember, us dads were told to man up, figure it out, and just go through life without having emotions. So we're going to work on changing that mindset, flipping that narrative upside down, and working on the emotional side of being a dad.